We often ask, why do we look at dyslexia awareness? What's the point of looking at dyslexia awareness? And often people give the answer, it's the right thing to do. Well, the right thing to do could mean a number of different things. It could mean it's practically the right thing to do. It could mean financially, this is the right thing to do. It could mean ethically, it's the right thing to do. There's all sorts of different things we might mean when we say it's the right thing to do. So today, I'm just going to look at the idea that ethically, it's the right thing to do. Now, when we say that something's the right thing to do ethically, we don't often examine closely what we mean. Now, we can look at this from an ethical point of view and say that there are effectively 4 different ethical standpoints we can take. Okay? And from each of these standpoints, I would argue that looking at dyslexia awareness is the right thing to do. So let's go through them very quickly, one by one. The first standpoint takes an objective view. It takes a view of the person as an end in herself. It takes the view of the person as intrinsically valuable. And what we need to do is we need to look at this person as an intrinsically valuable end in herself. And therefore, in doing that, clearly, the right thing to do is to look at her as a whole human being and to take her seriously and to take her needs seriously. And therefore, looking at dyslexia awareness is clearly the right thing to do. The second ethical perspective, you can say ethical perspective or point of view or position. The second ethical perspective is basically what we call rights-based ethics. Now, rights-based ethics is very popular at the moment, and the idea of rights-based ethics is people have rights, and groups of people have rights. And once we take these rights seriously, we realize we have a duty towards them, and we have a duty to be obligated to these rights. Well, of course, people with dyslexia, they have rights, and we have a duty to be obligated towards those rights. And so clearly what we need to do, if we look at it from a rights-based ethics point of view, is accept that there are people out there with rights, the right to learn, the right to read properly, the right to interact with the world in the same way that everybody else does. And if we take that seriously, then we have a duty to meet their needs. The third ethical perspective is what you would call a consequentialist ethical perspective. Now, this is very interesting. A consequentialist ethical perspective effectively says that the things we do are good when they have good consequences. So when we take people with dyslexia into account, when we take them seriously, what are we doing? We're communicating with them. We're inviting them to communicate with us as well as they can. We're increasing the way that we can interact with them. And so when I take a consequentialist view, I look at people with dyslexia and I ask myself, well, okay, if I take dyslexia seriously, what benefits are there in the world? Well, clearly there are economic benefits because they can fit into our businesses better. There are educational benefits because we can communicate with them better, we can meet their needs better, and we can reach them more easily. There are benefits if people want to look at your website, they'll come and look at your website more. So from a consequentialist point of view, clearly dyslexia awareness is the right thing to do. And finally, I'd argue that there's an old-fashioned ethical theory called virtue ethics. Now, virtue ethics is when you cultivate the virtues within yourself. And if you act according to yourself and according to these virtues that you've cultivated, then you're acting virtuously, you're acting ethically. Well, let's just say some of the virtues we can have are respect, loyalty, love, that kind of thing. And if we act towards people with respect, if we act towards dyslexic people with love, if we act towards dyslexic people with a feeling that we value them, then what we do is we bring them into our world and we bring ourselves into their world. And when we do that, we increase everybody's world. And isn't that the kind of ethical world we all want to live in? Thank you. Maybe you have a different point of view. Maybe you'd like to comment. I'd be very interested to hear from you. Thanks very much.